This is not the Obama White House. We don't give our playbook away. That is very bad strategy. But we have an incredible team, whether it's Secretary Mattis, whether it's H.R. McMaster, whether it's Tom Bossett that is responsible for some of our most amazing cyber work. But we're just not going to tell people what we do.
Wow, and we know who that was. The Trump administration is keeping tight-lipped over whether or not a cyber attack was to blame for the failed North Korean missile launch over the weekend. But do we have the capability like this to keep a strike from happening? And, of course, that was Sebastian Gorka. Here with more on this is the former CIA senior intel officer and senior fellow right now at the London Research Center for Policy Research, Lieutenant Colonel Tony Shaffer.
Hey, Brian.
Colonel, welcome. So what are our options? We keep hearing China's got to do everything here. Do we have any options if we have to go it alone?
No, we don't, but I think at this point we will, and I think that's the policy the White House has put forward. And to your point, to Seb Gorka's point, look, Brian, we've been working this issue since the early 90s, since they became nuclear, and we do have a range of capabilities to include those I would say dark arts, the issue of cyber and other things like that. So I think we're a lot further along than people understand, which is good. With that said, I think the reason we're here is because the Obama administration, who, by the way, Brian, had all these capabilities, just chose not to use them. So the strategic neglect by the Obama White House has left us with a limited number of options. Most of them have to be very aggressive. But the answer is, yeah, I think there's a pretty good chance we probably did something to interfere with that missile launch over the weekend. Yeah,
Colonel, I hope so. But, of course, it doesn't do anyone any good to claim it or pound our chests about it.
That's right.
Colonel, strategic patience. I think you misspoke. But, by the way...
No, I meant neglect.
No, I know you did. I'm being sarcastic, but I also like to add this. So the president says to President-elect Trump, by the way, your biggest problem is North Korea, which I ignored for 8 years, which I think people seem to be glancing over. I did see over the weekend we have two responses if military is an option. We have a brand new microwave way of getting underneath the ground and possibly bringing all electronics to its knees in North Korea, whatever's left. And we have an MOP that penetrates 200 feet below the surface that could stop their nuclear program. Real quick, something happened in Turkey this weekend that you want the American people to know about.
Well, look, President Erdogan essentially had a referendum that he barely won, which actually gives him enormous power. It gives him essentially the power of a dictator. So let's remember, Brian, that Turkey is a NATO ally, but they've been an erstwhile one who has not been very helpful in the war against ISIS and other things. So President Erdogan coming in with new powers is very likely moving Turkey towards a position of him being a dictator and calling for no further elections. So this is a real danger to both the Turkish people and to our alliance with the Turks. This is no small issue, and I think we need to take great notice of Turkey and where it's going right now as well.
Colonel, he essentially said, goodbye, Parliament. I'm doing this myself.
That's
Even though he had total control of the media, he only got 51% of the vote. This is unbelievable. It really, they've said, I think in the Washington Post today, they put Turkey, 1917 to 2017, it's the end of the republic. So I don't know what that's going to do for our relations, but I sense nothing good.
It's a real danger.
Colonel, thanks so much.
Right. Thank you, Brian.